everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of the 40k Badcast. My name is Dan Boyd, and I am joined by my life partner, Campbell McLaughlin, the indefatigable Campbell McLaughlin, the inestimable Campbell McLaughlin, the invulnerable Campbell McLaughlin.
You forgot inescapable.
Ooh, I didn't forget it. You are quite escapable. How you feeling there, bud?
I'm feeling pretty great. So some of you may notice that our last episode came out way the fuck a long time ago, and that's because we recorded it. My microphone was wrong and broken, and I used the wrong one, so I sound like shit, so we had to re-record it. And then it was like, hey, let's get a nice recording going on. Let's re-record it. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Tonight I'm gonna make myself some steaks for dinner, and I'm frying up some nice tasty meat nuggets, and suddenly the oil jumps out of the pan right into my eyeball and gets right in my cornea. So I was out for a few more days because I couldn't see shit.
Were you like deep frying steaks?
I was just getting a ripping hot pan because you need that to get a good crust on those meaty boys.
You do need a good sear on your steak.
Gotta
And
keep them
it
juices
got in your
and that
eyeball?
flavor
Did you
helps.
finish eating the steaks with the fucked up eye, or did you abandon Steakorama?
I kept cooking the steaks, and then I ate the steaks while watching Baby Driver with my one good eye. Which,
Hey,
by the way,
that's
is
a good
very
movie.
film.
Yeah, that's a
That's
good
a
one.
good film.
Hey, listeners, here's another recommendation from Dan's film corner. Baby Driver's pretty darn good. Go Redbox that shit.
And you can just go to redbox.com/badcast for 0% off and a nice tasty 404 in your browser.
All right, so yeah, we suck. We fucked up the previous attempt at Badcast episode 20, and here we are, acting very contrite. We were going to try to get something to go going last week. As we record, it is the 16th of November. We're going to try to get something going last week, but we couldn't because we both had to go to weddings. Campbell, tell me about the wedding you went to, please.
So, first of all, it was in North Carolina. I got to spend part of that time there in the emergency room because I was going there for my eye thing because I had to leave like a day after the thing happened to my eye, and I just did not have time to get everything worked out. So I'm there at this wedding with like hot oil in my eye, and it's just everything is pain. It feels like someone punched me in the eye and they kept their fist there.
You know, you can be like, hey, people getting married, my eye doesn't work, and I'm in terrible pain. Can't come to your wedding.
Except I'm in North Carolina, which is basically just a strip mall separated by Walmart. So what the fuck am I gonna do?
Oh, we
I
just
might as
lost
well
some
go to the
listeners. Let's not disparage the great state of North Carolina too much, there, fella.
Hey, they are first in freedom. Their license plate tells me so.
It's first in flight.
I know, but there's some that say first in freedom now because there's like an urban legend that they seceded from England before the rest of America by like a month.
Okay, I guess cool. I don't know. I
Sure.
don't know. You know, we're gonna have to fact check that, and by fact check that, I mean not fact check that.
I mean, not go to Wikipedia later because that's more work than I feel like doing. Anyway, while I'm there, the whole wedding was very poorly planned, and through one mistake or another, I ended up emceeing the wedding for a couple I do not know.
Very nice.
Yeah, and of course, the best man, who did not give a speech, was wearing a fucking Sephiroth trench coat.
Yes.
Because I was talking to the maid of honor about it, and she's like, "What's fucking Neo doing here?" And I said, "No, that is not Neo." And I Google Sephiroth trench coat, and it is this pleather Sephiroth trench coat. That's pleather with a P, Sephiroth trench coat. That is $230 dues and covered in straps, and has like a big fucking vampire collar you can turn up.
God.
And no one says a goddamn word about this, like out loud. And you're sitting there outside, by the way, outside in the mountains in North Carolina in November, so it's cold as shit. And again, not a well-planned wedding. And as the processional comes on, you see, the maid of honor walk down. You see one of the groomsmen walk down, and you see fucking Sephiroth walk down.
Yes.
As the entire like congregation, they were just like biting their finger, trying not to laugh out loud. And then they're like, could the best man now present the rings? And he reaches under his jacket into his fucking fanny pack where he's carrying the rings.
Oh, God. Oh, fuck. You're fucking joking.
No!
Oh my God.
No, he was getting a little like side pack thing on his hip under his Sephiroth trench coat. When the groom said he wanted the groomsmen to wear jackets, I don't think that's what he was expecting.
Oh God, it's a jacket, technically.
It certainly is a garment you wear over things.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were right at home.
I'll have you know, I was actually dressed very well. I went out and bought new suits and everything. They fit me nicely.
I'm sure. Okay. Yeah, so I went to a wedding too. Let me tell you this one, man. It's not going to be as funny as yours, but it's good because we got there late. Not to the wedding, but the night before, because Danielle and I had to work, and it was in Rehoboth in Delaware, which you might think, oh, on the beach, that's cool. Well, Rehoboth, Delaware in November during like the coldest weekend thus far of the season when it was 30 degrees out and extremely windy, not the best place for a wedding, but we persevered and it was fine. Thing is though, we get there, it's like 11:30 at night and we're going up to our room in the hotel and there's a woman in the hallway and she's on the phone. She looks distraught. She's like on the phone with somebody. She's like, I just need some advice. I don't know what to do. She's talking about calling off the wedding. And I'm like, what? What? So we get into the room and, don't say anything to her in the hall because I'm not trying to fucking cause shit. Just pass her, like, give her a nod and, whatever. Get into the room and I'm like, Danielle, did you hear that? Did you hear what the lady said? And she was like, yeah, it would have been nice if they could have called off the wedding 3 hours ago so we didn't have to drive all the way out here. And I was like, agreed. So yeah, weddings, man. Hey, the wedding didn't get called off. It happened.
Wow.
Oh man, the best man speech at this one. It was so obvious that dude was winging it.
Yeah.
He had not prepared anything. And it was like a rambling 10-minute long, just bullshit. Just terrible, awful speech. And then the maid of honor comes up and she's got like 6 fucking pages of shit going on. And she nails like a 5-minute, like heartfelt speech. It was awesome.
Damn. Yeah, after emceeing this one for whatever reason, which included like such gems as, you don't have to go home, you can't stay here, like that sort of cheesy wedding shit.
Oh, yes.
I had not one, but 2 people come up to me and ask me if I could officiate their weddings.
That's awesome, man. You're a celebrity.
Yeah, a celebrity among my girlfriend's friend group.
All right, let's get on to our show about Warhammer 40,000, which is clearly what this show is about.
What, Hammer?
Well, let's get into the aspects or what's on our hobby radar. I got a couple of updates about my Primaris Marines. I finished my Aggressors, my Primaris Aggressors. Love those models. They're kind of they started off quick, like painting up quick, but they slowed down big time when I got into the edge highlighting black stage because there's a lot of little
Raven
ridges.
Guard, the part where you paint them black goes by pretty fast.
No, I'm talking about all the other colors and all the other highlights and shit.
Yeah. I hear you.
But the edge highlighting, there's a lot of little ridges and nooks and crannies on those guys, and it took a while to get those up. But finished those, and I am almost finished with my first squad of Primaris Reavers.
Nice.
And those things paint up real fucking quick because there is not a whole lot to them, and I didn't include any Purity Seals because fuck Purity Seals.
I'm cool with Purity Seals, but I feel like the Terror Troop kind of guys with skull masks don't really need them.
Right. So these models are great. They're a bitch to put together because the arms are just flat plastic to flat plastic panels. There's no like dimples or anything to connect them. So it's kind of annoying to get them all put together. But other than that, really cool models.
I mean, that's what regular tactical Marines are like. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's been a while since I had to do that.
About to say, most things you've assembled have been put metal model in base glue.
Yeah, or put a fucking tank together. Yeah, but so is the arms. I had to figure out like which arm do I glue on to start. So because I paint the gun separately so I can get at the chest area. So I had to figure that whole thing out, and I reversed it halfway through. So 3 of the dudes have their right arms on, and 3 of the dudes have their left arms on, and it's just it's a fucking mess. But hey, I'm learning. Yeah. What about you?
So I finished.
It's been a fucking month, by the way. It's been a fucking month since the last time we did it, and I have finished 1 unit, and I've gotten most of the way done on my second unit, but it should tell you how long fucking edge highlighting takes me.
Yeah, especially with those aggressors, also so many little edges.
It's true.
So I finished the fire support 5-man Crusader squad from last time, the Las Plas 4th edition one. That was whatever. I built and painted a Devastator squad. I think I might mention I built them last time. I don't know, whatever. I painted a Devastator squad and I did them all with, I was done with the armor and I'm like, all right, I can finish these guys in a day. but I want to do yellow guns with hot rod flames on them. So this is going to take another week.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures. They look really fucking fantastic.
Thank you. I love how they came out. I wish my camera kind of sucks on my new phone, so I'm kind of bummed how some of the pictures came out. They're kind of Vaseline-y at the edges.
My camera doesn't even work on my old as dirt phone. So, listeners, I will take pictures when I get a new camera, which will hopefully be soon.
I also converted and paint up a Terminator captain using like that store exclusive, like store birthday. Buy a bunch of toys, and you can buy this other toy, Terminator captain. And again, like the Deathwatch Master head and some little Templar bits just to kind of customize them a little bit. I built up a Tech Marine for my Templars using a bunch of like Devastator Squad bits and the metal Tech Marine axe and the backpack. Like the backpack's a mix of like Stern Guard Flamer backpack with the servo arm from the missile launcher backpack. I'm really happy with how it came out for just like a little cheapo fixie guy. And I also built up chaplain just for my Templars, just like one of the old skull chaplains, as well as I started work on 10 Vespid Stingwings for a commission to pay for that repulsor tank. I think I'm gonna do a pretty simple job with them. I mixed a custom wash of like teal and blue to kind of get over them. I'm just probably gonna be like a 3-step dry brush sort of thing. Like I don't think I need to actually put that much work into them. But
no, I think their carapace or their chitin is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it should go together pretty well. But other than that, I think that's all I've really done because I haven't been able to do much hobby over the last week because of oil in the eye. Because I can't, like, it's all blurry on the right eye. I tried when I built the chaplain today, and I managed to like stab myself twice, and I'm like, I cannot do this right now.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Do you have a sweet eye patch?
No. Although I was thinking of calling it the Bale Eye.
Ooh, like Mr. Yarrick.
Yeah, like Mr. Yarrick. Or since it was like one bright red angry eye, I was like, oh, I could just be like Magnus the Red. But I'm not that much of a nerd. Although I do share his proclivity for anime.
It's Badcast canon. Magnus likes anime. You playing the games?
Oh yeah, I played a few. It's been a little bit, but I played 3. I played one against my local buddy Dan and his Space Wolves.
Dan.
Dude, he
not as cool as Badcast Dan.
No, he isn't as cool as Badcast Dan, but he's a good Dan. Like he's a pretty quality Dan.
There's some good Dans out there. There's some bad Dans out there, but there's some good Dans out there.
Yeah, and despite this being the 40k bad Dan, this is the 40k good Dan. I don't even know anymore.
You know what we didn't do?
What?
We didn't talk about any cool Glens that we...
Because we didn't receive any, because that is a symptom of there not being any cool Glens.
I figured a cool Glen. I figured one out.
Who?
Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Dennis.
Ah, yeah, he's actually a nice and funny guy.
Yeah, so that's it. That's all the cool Glens there are. Nobody sent that in, so I had to figure that one out on my own. So, I mean, shit, that's it. That's it for Glens. Sorry, Glens.
You're just not cool. You didn't rise up.
Nobody came to the defense of the Glens.
There were no champions of Glendom to come forth.
All right, enough about Glens. Tell me about games you played.
All right, local Dan. I used my Templars. It was like a 1,216 point game, just because that's what he has right now.
Very nice.
He has a habit of buying an army, painting it as well as he can, and selling it immediately.
Yeah, you've told me about this guy before.
Yeah, when we recorded this podcast a few weeks ago. So this is his newest army, which is Space Wolves, but it wasn't really like that. The army didn't really work together that well, and he's still new to 8th edition. So he had like Long Fangs, 2 wolf-mounted characters, and a bunch of Grey Hunters on foot. So I just gunned down the Long Fangs and the Land Raider Crusader and rolled them over with everything else. I used the new Templar dice that Steel Mentor sent me, and they rolled real hot.
Nice. Finally, some good dice for you.
I know. They're the Warhammer rolled ones with the Templar crosses in the 6, and they look sharp. So I played against my dad. He was using Imperial Guard from the Index, and again, my dice were real hot. It took his whole army to kill my Contemptor, and then it exploded after it did a ton of damage and did even more damage. And that was pretty much a blowout. We had similar points. He likes playing with the Maelstrom cards, and the points scored were pretty similar by the end of the game, but he only had like another turn before I tabled all of his guard. And then I had a rematch with him for his birthday a few weeks later, and this time I gave him a more mobile force with a bunch of deep striking stormtroopers, and he actually has a company commander model that I converted to look like him from the old chubby Cadian lieutenant. So I gave him like his hat and his glasses and mustache and all that stuff, and painted him up for Christmas a few years ago. And he says he won because he brought his officer that time. But it was a much closer game, and he pulled out a victory by like 1 or 2 victory points. We played Contact Lost, which is, I think, my favorite of the Maelstrom scenarios, because that's one where you generate a card for every objective you're on. So you're benefited for staying on objectives, but you're also benefiting from the mobility that the Maelstrom games encourage.
Awesome, man. I've also played quite a few games in the last 4 weeks. Went to a tournament at Huzzah Hobbies in Sterling, Virginia, a 3-round tournament. Went 1-2 at the tournament. I had a standard guard brigade and a shadow sword and 2,000 points, and I don't think I'm going to do that again. Mainly, the shadow sword is extremely good, but it's a little too many eggs in one basket for the guard.
So by do that again, you mean that list or a tournament?
No, that list. I actually enjoyed the tournament. It was a good amount of fun. I played first game against this fellow Will. He had Raptors Space Marines, so a bunch of Forge World bullshit tactics everywhere. Everything could deep strike. It was a mess. 4 Storm Talons, 3 Devastator squads, a lot of deep striking. Lost because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing against deep striking Marines, where literally everything could deep strike. So I was sort of just got like, surrounded and fucked up piece by piece, and I was like, oh, well, this is good. But it was still a good game, and Will was a super nice guy, so, not a bad game whatsoever. Then I played a game against a fella named either Steve or Scott, I can't remember, sorry, pal, against his Salamanders, and I won in the basic way Imperial Guard beats any elite army, which is outlasting them, because I just had so much shit shooting, and he only has so many things, because he played a Dreadnought-heavy Salamanders list. He had really nicely painted models, though, and it was a pleasure to play. He was a really cool guy, too, so I would like to play against him. Then I played against this fellow named Austin, who I played in 2014 at Mechanicon in Pennsylvania, where he beat me with Grey Knights at that point, and then went and won that tournament. And I think at that tournament I won every other game after that, but he went and won the tournament. And he had, at this game, he had a list that was 3 Shadow Swords, 3 command salamanders, a astropath, and a company commander. And that was it. And he went first, so I'm going to let you guess who won on that one.
Yeah, he went first because he didn't need to go last. Jesus Christ.
Right, so he just blew all of... I was actually happy about this game when I rolled up because I was kind of tired, and it was a 3-round tournament, and it was already like 7 o'clock. And I was like, ooh, a short game. Oh, this will be fun. So it was about an hour and a half long, and lost. I think I did get tabled. I don't remember. I don't know. It was an hour and a half game. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And then I played a couple of pickup games at Mike Brandt's house once against this fellow Alex's Dark Eldar. Beat him in, again, just the way that, Imperial Guard wins shit. He had Inari. He brought a Harlequin-based Inari list, and I had brought a pretty competitive list because the crowd at Mike's plays pretty competitive 40k, but he didn't, and so we went into it, and he was at a big disadvantage right off the bat, but it was still a fun game. He's a really good guy. I was hanging out with our buddy Chris Stover, the fellow with the Tau that kicked both of our asses at Nova.
Yeah.
It was very nice to see him again. He's a cool dude. And then I played last week against, or the other night rather, I played against fellas named Kerry and John, a 2-on-1 match in an open war game. These guys had just started playing 40K. I'm talking about they started playing in August. And Kerry already had like a 2,000 point Death Guard list that was fully painted.
Nice. How'd it look?
Pretty good. I think he was doing speed paint techniques for the most part. Like it wasn't like, Golden Demon style painting, but it was still very, very good. And they both seem to be getting into the hobby and enjoying it a whole lot. I'm looking forward to playing against them again. It was a good match, open war game. So just nutty what happened, but I ended up losing because I brought all tanks and no troops.
Womp womp.
And I couldn't score any objectives. So yeah, that's games played. We're going to talk about some new stuff. We're going to go a little quick here because there's a lot of new stuff going on. But Necromunda came out. Remember that little tabletop game?
The small game of gang boys?
Little gang boys having a fight. That's out.
Child soldiers throwing grenades at each other, yeah.
So that was pre-ordered last week. It's going to be in stores this week. I'm probably going to pick up Gang War. I don't know if I'm going to pick up the whole box. I wouldn't mind getting the rule book, but just the rule book. Because I'm not... I don't need 2 gangs that are going to be unpainted until at least April. You know
I
what
understand.
I mean? Like, I don't need that right now. So I know I'm going to pick up Gang War, mainly just because I want to read through it and see what's going on. But I'm not going to pick up the full game.
So that's actually what my dad saw me like, reading through the White Dwarf. He's like, you want me to get that for you for Christmas? And I'm like, the thought of opening like a big GW box under the Christmas tree on Christmas Day is kind of like a nostalgic thing that I'd like to experience again. So I'm waiting until Christmas to get it. But I'm all over it. I want the big box. I want both gangs. I will probably just play Goliaths, but I know my girlfriend would probably be interested in playing as the Eschers. If not, I think they'd just be really fun to paint or model. And they'd be great for like Inquisition, Inquisimunda, or weird guard regiment conversions. There's talk of all the classic gangs, as well as like Outlanders and other like kind of fringe stuff getting done.
Beastman bounty hunter. Did you see that model?
That guy's great with the stogie and the plasma pistol.
Fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
I love the designers of Necromunda are having so much fun, man.
Oh yeah, clearly, and like. I don't know if you've gotten the White Dwarf for this month yet, but like the stuff in Necromunda in there is like pretty big. Like I haven't seen fluff like that in White Dwarf. Like that's the good old stuff.
Yeah, it's really. I'm excited to try that out. But with my fucking painting schedule and shit, I can't. I just don't feel like buying a bunch of shit that's not going to get painted right now.
I totally get you.
I know that I'm gonna have a bunch of friends who have multiple gangs and stuff, and I can fuck around with that. However, if they release like the Orlok kit.
Oh, yeah,
there's an extremely strong chance that I'm going to pick up some minor bros and start ganging it up with the gangers.
Well, also, like, I guarantee the like Gene Stealer cult, like that regular Gene Stealer cult, like squad box of the Acolytes or whatever, that's a gang right there. I guarantee they'll just be like, oh, yeah, you can use them here, too. I think it's going to, from the sound of things, it's going to go much bigger than the original one went. And because you already have all the 40k scenery you can play with, or just the tiles in the box, I think there's a lot you can do with it. But I love the bulkheads, like a classic update of the old ones that still look pretty close to them, but are definitely like nicer. I don't mind that it's kind of more of a dungeon crawl at this point without the expansion because it keeps it kind of more manageable and more portable too.
But in all honesty, that makes sense for what Necromunda is.
Yeah,
because it's all fucking tunnel systems.
Yeah, like
some people on the internet were getting real fucking salty that like there's Necromunda Underhive and then Gang War is like a separate book.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, they're fucking splitting everything up to make more money. It's like, well, no, they're releasing a specific game, and then they're also releasing rules that you can use if you want to.
Yeah, like all the rules for the game are in the box for everything in the box. If you want to play with more advanced rules, you get the more advanced rule book. I don't mind that much. Yeah, do I see it kind of like DLC, quote unquote? Yeah, sort of, but like I don't mind that much. Because
all the people who are like, oh, my fucking Escher models from 1994 are invalidated because they don't have the right weapons. It's like, oh, fuck you, dude. You're fucking 23-year-old models. Are you angry that they're not making rules specifically for you and your shit old models?
That your models that are old enough to vote? That being said, they are releasing legacy rules. Like on the website, the Necromunda website does have like a section for legacy rules. I don't think it's there yet, but like I think it might just be like a coming soon sort of thing. But I think you'll be able to use your old gangs. And from the sound of how the game is designed, it's like you have a bigger roster and you choose guys for each gang, for each fight, as opposed to before where you just have like 8 guys and you have to make sure they don't die. So I think it'll be it's a smart way for them to make an expandable game, because previously you could just like buy 10 models and never buy anything again, and that's one of the reasons Necromunda kind of died in the vine.
Right. All right. So a bunch of Eldar stuff came out too.
Yep. Dice you can't read.
The new codex
I don't
came
want to
out.
read.
Dice that are impossible to read, and I don't think anybody really gave a shit. I still haven't played any
players
Eldar.
Are happy to have a book, and I'm like, you know what?
Yet.
Fine, keep fucking tabling me with rules I don't understand.
Yeah, good for them. I'm sure I'll play against Craft Eldar in the next few weeks or something, and somebody's going to be like, yeah, and then these guys just don't die. And I'll be like, oh, fuck, and not know any of the rules and lose badly and then be salty about it for a week.
Mm-hmm.
But what's more interesting is that they released the Tyranid Codex. And we're going to talk about Tyranids a lot this episode. That's actually going to be the meat of our discussion after we get through the Auspex here.
Yeah.
But so I just want to mention real quick, before we get into it about Tyranids, The Tyranid Codex came out. They broke down hive fleets. They have a ton of new awesome stratagems. It's really cool. I'm having trouble not wanting to buy a bunch of Tyranids. I'm not going to do it, but I really want to run like a Hive Jormungandr Tyranid Hive Fleet list, and it's kind of a problem because their colors are black and yellow, and one, I despise the Pittsburgh Steelers, and two, I don't want another fucking black 40k army, and I especially don't want another fucking Horde army, but it's pulling at me. It's pulling at me.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird middle ground between your two color schemes.
Yeah, right. So let's real quick before we get into Tyranids, let's talk about Shadespire for 1 second. Shadespire's out. The new warbands, the Skellies and the Orcs are out too. And I had the experience where I got to watch a Shadespire tournament happen at Mike Brandt's house the other night, and it didn't look all that much fun.
Really?
You remember when we were walking through Adepticon, and we walked by the Blood Bowl room, and I think you were with me, and I overheard some guy say,
I was with you.
I was like, or some guy said, man, it looks miserable in there. And because, I mean, it kind of did. Everybody's like sitting at their table, just like focused on the board in front of them or whatever. It didn't look like people were having a ton of fun. And that's kind of what Shadespire looked like to me.
That room was like also a bunch of boards that were like 25 years old with like a menagerie of mostly poorly painted models from 1995 also.
Hold up.
And a bunch
not true.
a bunch of old men playing them.
That's okay. Old men and bad models, yes, but those boards were almost all of them the neoprene Forge World mats that they had given to Adepticon for that event that they are now sold out on the Forge World website with.
I didn't know they were out yet.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, all right. Well, either way, I actually I was like a banner waver for Shadespire when we first saw it at Adepticon because like it looked really fun and I enjoyed playing it with you, and like I liked the more tactical, more strategic, and more ostensibly balanced approach they were going with. And when I was reading through like the White Dwarf issue all about it, I was like, yeah, this is good shit. And then Necromunda came out, and I'm like, oh, if I'm gonna play a game with like a small group of models run around some cardboard tiles, am I gonna go with the bunch of drugged out psycho dock workers of Necromunda, or am I gonna have 3 golden boys versus 5 blood men? And yeah, like Shadespire looks really cool. I'd love to play it, but I don't know if I'm going to pick it up because Necromunda is going to be scratching a similar itch much better. If Shadespire actually came out when we saw it, or sometime pretty close to that, like I think it was supposed to, because I remember their trailer saying coming soon, and they used the same trailer again 6 months later, then I'd be way more into it. But at this point, my skirmish game attention is all turns towards Necromunda.
So I have an issue with it that it seems too arena-y. Seems like it's very much geared towards the competitive thing. Not a whole lot of room for narrative in there. And, maybe I'm wrong, and probably I'm wrong, but it just seemed like the way people were playing it, it was like, well, I've got this unit, and so I'm going to build my deck exactly like this, and and everybody else is going to do the same thing, and we're all going to do the same thing when we play, too, with our units. It seemed reminded me a lot of Hearthstone, which is,
I get that.
A wizard poker game from Blizzard Entertainment, played on the computer, and that I used to play a lot of, but I don't play anymore because everybody has the same deck. Every class in Hearthstone has the same deck, and you can predict exactly the sequence of cards they're going to play. And in Shadespire, I was watching them play it the other night, and it looked to be a lot of the same thing. So I've kind of backed off on Shadespire. I don't think I'm going to play.
I mean, I'd happily play if somebody was like, "Hey, I'm rolling up with this game. You'll play." I'd be totally down to, because I did enjoy playing it. Just
yeah, if it's just like a quick pickup thing. But I think like if you're going to get into it, it's going to be tournaments. It's going to be competitive play.
Generally, that's what's made for.
Because the games don't last. Like you're not going to be like invite a buddy over and be like, all right, come over for a couple hours. We're going to play Shadespire the whole time. No, you do that with fucking Warhammer because it's a 2.5-3 hour game. But with Shadespire, it's just like, yeah, we'll get our 3 10-minute rounds in, and then see ya. Yeah, no thanks. So we're going to move on. We're going to be talking about Tyranids a lot this episode. Like I said before, I've called this section, Campbell, Tuesdays with Tyranids, a chitinous retrospective.
I was going to call it the 40k Badcast.
The 40k bug. That's maybe even better. Okay, so it's 1993. Games Workshop is in its second edition of Warhammer 40,000, and the first Tyranid Codex comes out. It introduces all of the classic Nid models, your Carnifexes, your Hive Tyrants, your Warriors, Termagants, Hormigans, Gene Stealers. I don't know if the Lictor was involved in this one, but I have a feeling it was.
The Lictor was around second, and Gene Stealers go back to Rogue Trader.
So this book actually had Gene Stealer cults in the book, the rules for them.
Wowie zowie.
Back before, I don't know. Were they always connected, Gene Stealers and Tyranids? Because I feel like they weren't for a while.
No, back in Rogue Trader, there was a model that was just called a Tyranid that resembled a Gaunt, and that was pretty much it. It was part of like their greater range of weird ass aliens. Well, it got up there with Zotes and Ambles, but Gene Stealers and Gene Stealer cults were unrelated. Like Gene Stealers were just these creatures that are honestly the fluff for them was pretty much the same as it is now, where they're basically this kind of like xenomorph style creature for Space Hulk, which is aka Aliens, the board game with the numbers filed off. But yeah, at first they were not related at all, and then around second edition they consolidated them into one greater race. And they also actually brought in Zotes in second edition as the like ambassador class of Tyranids, as you can see in Ian Watson's Space Marine.
God, fucking second edition was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you get your great models like the Huggy Fex, the weird Tyranid warrior models that had the weird balloon heads and the big rabbit teeth. Yeah. And then I thought the great old second edition metal Tyranid Hive Tyrant model, which was a pain in the ass to put together because it was all metal and kind of spindly, but I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah, actually, if I recall correctly, our good pal Peter has a t-shirt of that same second edition Hive Tyrant that is called the Party Tyrant.
So they also introduced Hive Fleets, Behemoth, and Kraken, which were the first and second Tyrannic wars, respectively, were the invasion into our galaxy from those two Hive Fleets. Behemoth being the classic red and blue color, and the Kraken being the classic bone and purple. So, and I think Behemoth, that was the invasion of Ultramar.
That it was, and the Battle of Macragge and all that.
Right, so that was the first Tyrannic War. All right, and so in 2001, they dropped the third edition Codex. And this is where the models, the special character models, for the first time, the Old One-Eye and Red Terror were introduced. Old One-Eye, of course, being a very mean Carnifex who can regenerate, and the Red Terror being some sort of wormy guy who swallows people whole, a proto-Moloch, if you will.
Yeah, the aesthetic at this point is like third edition is when it gets a lot less cartoony and looks a lot more like what we know today. So the aesthetic for Warriors, the resculpted Genes, I think the resculpted Gene Stealers came later, but Warriors, Gaunts, and
things got a lot crabbier in third edition.
Yeah, they got a lot more like dinosaur crab bugs as opposed to whatever the fuck they were before. Weirdly enough, they look a lot more like the Zerg from StarCraft.
So in 2005, 4th edition Tyranid Codex comes out, and this one kind of changes the character of Tyranids a little bit, removes some of the personality from them, and it really stresses their bestial nature. They did this by removing all of the special characters from the book, and they introduced, I think, Campbell, and I could be wrong here, but I think they introduced the first instinctive behavior rules to Tyranids, meaning that they acted either uncontrolled or had at big minuses when they're out of synapse range. They also introduced Hive Fleet Leviathan, which notably attacked the Imperium from underneath the galactic plane.
Because space is flat.
Space is a flat 2D map, yeah.
Take that, round earthers.
Gene Stealers were really good, weren't they?
Yeah, Stealer Shock was kind of the, like, Rhino Rush Stealer Shock. Like, it was like one of those names you would give an army. But it was, Gene Stealers didn't need the same amount of synapse as regular models did because they're more intelligent or whatever. They'd benefit from synapse, but not really have many drawbacks, if I recall correctly. So people would just take a lot of them. And with how rending was in 4th edition, where on 6s to hit, not wound, to hit, you ignored armor, they were absolutely savage. And you could just flood the table with these pretty cheap, infiltrating, rather fast, dangerous little bug creatures. But the other big thing in 4th was 4th edition is when the plastic Carnifex kit came out, which is still probably my favorite Tyranid model. And I think in a lot of ways, the Codex was made to showcase the, at the time, new Gene Stealer and Carnifex kits. Like, I would tentatively call that book Codex Carnifex. Like, there's a Carnifex on the fucking cover, for one, but the kit had a ton of options, all of which were represented, and you could make a menagerie of very dangerous, big, tough, tanky bugs.
So 5th edition comes around, and in 2010, Tyranids get a new Codex. And I think, Campbell, this is the creme de la creme of Tyranid codices.
It introduces the special characters back into the game, which is cool, but as well as a bunch of other ones, like the Parasite of Mortrex, I think it is, where they don't even have models for them or pictures of what they should look like, but they're really good, so people are just converting their own wacky and wild bugs to take over those roles.
Well, they had a picture of the Swarm Lord, which was pretty easy to make because it was a hive tyrant with 4 swords. They had Old One Eye, which I think... Were there parts in the Carnifex kit for making Old One Eye?
You had the skull head it was meant to represent the regeneration upgrade, but they took away a lot of the upgrades, including that one.
They didn't have a model for the Doom of Malantai, but that was the most popular special character because it fucking ruled.
Yeah, it was just Psychic Bomb.
It came onto the table and it was just near stuff and stuff died.
And made it harder to kill.
I don't remember exactly how it works because this was at this point 7 fucking years ago, but it was a piece of shit. When someone was like, "Oh, you got Tyranids? Oh yeah, let's play." Like, "Oh, you got the Doom? Fuck." And then of course it was always supported by like 3 to 9 Zoanthropes, and it was like, "Hey, here's a bunch of warp blasts everywhere. Goodbye, tanks." Fuck. I also had the Death Leaper, and what I think are the coolest Tyranid models of all time, the Imgarl Gene Stealers.
That was just a couple bits from the Gene Stealer box set you'd use to make them, but they had really cool rules. They were Gene Stealers +1. Kind of like how the Pure Strain Gene Stealers and the Gene Stealer cult list these days are pretty good and like a step above regular Gene Stealers. That's what these guys were like back in 5th.
Right. They also expanded the number of hive fleets. I got a list here. Naga, Gorgon, Jormungandr, Medusa were all mentioned in this codex, and they gave out some actual official color schemes to a lot of the hive fleets, so you could paint them up to be the same thing.
Every hive fleet is named after some monster, so if you ever want to make your own, you could be like Hive Fleet Cerberus or
Hive Fleet Polyphemus, Hive Fleet Bye Bye Man,
Hive Fleet Michael Myers,
Hive Fleet Hive Fleet It Follows,
Hive Fleet Freddy versus Jason,
Hive Fleet White People from Get Out.
Ooh,
there we go. That's it.
There we go. There's the zeitgeist being captured right there. But the 5th Ed Codex did come out with a really cool model, which was taken from Forge World, which is the
Trigon. I'm sorry. Did you fuck that up? Because it was the Trigon.
Do you see that ball rolling down the street? Because I didn't pick it up.
No, you didn't. You dropped it, actually. Yeah, you tried to pick it up.
I dropped it.
Didn't work out.
Rolled away. So the 5th edition Codex also had a bunch of entries for these like cool bugs, like the Tyrannifex, which is this big shooting bug, and for the one that gives birth to a bunch of Gaunts, and had no models for them.
And they had the Mycetic Spore and no model for it.
Yeah, there were a bunch of things without models for them, so you had all these like usually kind of shitty third-party sculptors making their own. Many of those third-party sculptors are no longer in business. That is kind of like, that specifically is the reason why GW doesn't put out models without, or rules without models anymore. Because while they like encouraging people to convert stuff and personalize things and make them their own, leaving straight holes in the range like that just opens things up for other companies.
Right, though I did enjoy the Coke can Mycetic Spore. That was always a good one. Or there was a Popeyes chicken and biscuits restaurant right near to Games Workshop at this time in my life, and so people would get like drink cups from Popeyes, and that'd be their Mycetic Spores. And then the store manager would be like, "There are drinks on the table."
Now, my favorite conversion from that time is the Storm Raven, where it's just like a Land Raider and a Valkyrie awkwardly mashed together.
Oh, yeah.
Like someone just clipped everything off the sprues, put them in a box with some super glue, and just shook it up a little bit and took out whatever was left.
Those were the days. All right, so in 2014, the 6th edition Tyranid Codex comes out, and people stop playing Tyranids. It's so bad.
This is the era of accept Tyranids.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Tyranids need not apply.
Literally nothing applies to Tyranids. They don't get the benefit of like any cool special rules. So many people I know got rid of their Tyranid armies at this point. Mike Brandt of Nova Open fame, he got rid of his Tyranid army at this point. He hated it. Now
think
he's
I played
he's
against-
super sad about it because Tyranids are not only flavorful but actually really good again.
Yeah.
But it's too bad. And this is when the whole idea of something getting crudist came out, of course, named for the writer of the Tyranid Codex in 2014, Robin Crudis, who is, one of the designers at Games Workshop. And I think this is something that you reminded me of, that this is the reason why names aren't put in codexes anymore. Like the people who wrote them.
Yeah, him and Matt Ward from the 5th edition Space Marine Codex, where he retconned a lot of fluff that people were not happy with, is like, people don't realize also these books aren't made by one person. They're led by one person usually, but it is a team effort by a group of writers, artists, and so on. So it was very easy for people to see like, oh, Robin Chris wrote this book and I don't like it. Well, fuck that guy. I'm going to send him a death threat because I'm a well-adjusted human being. And that's why they now just say made by the Games Workshop design team, because they don't want people sending them death threats anymore.
Great job, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, nerds.
Before we get to current Tyranids, because I want to talk about how cool they are right now. I want to talk about Forge World and the Forge World support for Tyranids. And they got one thing. The Infelian Project IA Imperial Armor 4 came out in 2006. And this was mostly the things that they added to it, besides the story and the campaign that they wrote for it and everything, which is really cool. They mostly added from models and entries were super heavies. The Hierophant Biotitan, which many people know as the most difficult to put together, own, and transport of any miniature ever made by Games Workshop or any affiliates of all time. Keep
it away from your cats.
Keep it away from literally anything. Stiff breezes. It stands on these. It's this big pile of fucking resin that's supported by these extremely long and spindly legs. I have no idea what they were thinking when they put that thing together.
I mean, it looks scary as hell.
It looks good. It's a great model still.
Yeah, I'd be scared to touch it though. Like, no, just it looks beautiful. I'm happy to look at it from a distance.
So they also did the Hieroduel, the barbed Hieroduel, and the scythed Hieroduel, which is just bigger than Carnifex monsters running around. The Harridan, which is a big flyer that pooped out a bunch of gargoyles. I actually played against one in the game once. It's a pain in the ass. Oh. And then they brought in the Trigon. They had a Forge World model for that, which was a pain in the ass to put together because it came with about 48 tiny little mini arms on it that were individual, and you had to glue on piece by piece. But most importantly, they introduced the Malanthrope, which is still one of the most popular models for Tyranid players today.
Well, it's got the Cthulhu thing going on, which Tyranid players love because they love intergalactic cosmic horror shit, and it's really creepy and well sculpted.
It's also an extremely effective model on the tabletop, giving things cover. It kills something. It makes the whole army better at killing things. It's a great addition to the Tyranid range. But right now, 2017, the Tyranids get their own new codex, and Campbell, it's fucking baller.
Which this is kind of a head trip for me because Tyranids haven't had a good codex in a very long time. I played against Tyranids maybe once between late 5th and now. Right
after 8th edition came out, I got a game against Mike Brandt with my old Raven Guard Marines, and he was proxying for Tyranids because he really wanted to play him but didn't have any, he got rid of his models. And he kicked the shit out of me. They're so good. They're so strong. They're fucking gone. And, we played them at Nova, and I would be worried personally about playing a full 2,000 points of NIDS because I don't know where the fuck I'd start with what to shoot at. I guess Tervigans are a big priority.
You'd start by waiting 2.5 hours for them to move their 90 gaunts across the table.
Oh, don't even remind me. But they're very strong right now. They got a bunch of great new rules. All the high fleets got rules like Space Marine chapters do. Mm-hmm. So Jormungandr always gets cover. Gorgon, they reroll wounds or something? Reroll ones to wound? Isn't it something like that? I know Kronos, if they stand still, they get to reroll ones to hit in the shooting phase. Yeah, Gorgon is they reroll ones in the fight phase to wound because of adaptive toxins.
So I think that's really interesting because this is one of the few times where I've seen usually when it comes to Space Marine chapters, they have the same thing as Tyranids do, where it's like, oh, Ultramarines get to fall back and shoot because they can plan to retreat. Salamanders get to reroll to wound or reroll with one weapon because they're master craftsmen or whatever. And those are rules that reflect the fluff. While with the Hive fleets, their fluff isn't really that distinguishable from each other. So in this case, it's rules being written first, not fluff being written first, and rules being written to reflect those, which I think is interesting. That's kind of the other way around.
Do you have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's an interesting development. I think it'd be cool if in the future, as things go on, it's like, oh, well, if this Hive fleet is, whatever, their guys, I don't know what the rules are, they move 1 inch faster or whatever, then you'd say like, oh, a Hive fleet Nagaroth or whatever has slightly longer legs or a faster metabolism to move faster or whatever. Like, I think it'd be cool if the fluff moved to reflect what some of the rules are now.
I think it's great that balanced rules making is influencing the way the story rather goes.
Yeah, I like that. It's different. It's very different for Games Workshop.
Well, they got whole new rules. They got a ton of new stratagems too, which, a lot of these are extremely flavorful because the Tyranids eat people. But they're a lot of fun spicy. There, like pathogenic slime.
Pathogenical slime is also my cover band of Municipal Waste.
Oh, I love Municipal. They're a Virginia band. They're a Richmond band.
Huh, they're your local boys then.
Yeah, that's right. Local boys doing bad. Caustic Blood is a great one. Tyranid stratagem. This one, whenever a model in a unit is destroyed, you roll a dice. On a 6, the enemy that destroyed it in the fight phase takes a mortal wound. So it's like alien blood.
Alien's blood.
Acid blood. So really cool stuff. Very flavorful, very cool, very powerful. They might not be at the top of the list as far as the most powerful codexes right now, but they're definitely up there with a strong showing.
Yeah. Wait, how would you put them up against Guard?
Oh, geez.
Stacking those two.
Well, the key to beating Guard is getting there, is tying them up, right? He's getting close. You can. There's some armies that can shoot him off the board, especially if you have 3 fucking Shadow Swords. But I think that Tyranid shooting is actually pretty fucking strong. Mm-hmm. And since they have a lot of monsters who aren't very expensive, they can put a lot of wounds at range. And then they have, these Venomthropes and Malanthropes that have the -1 to hit aura, which against Guard is actually pretty fucking bad because it takes Guardsmen and turns them into orcs for shooting.
Yeah, and Guard rely on shooting that's a little less powerful, but they have a lot more of it that hits a lot better than orcs do. So yeah.
Right. So when you're giving a lot of -1s out, and then there's a fuck ton of infantry everywhere, and it's the same problem that people have when they play against Guard, because you're like, what the fuck do I shoot at? There's so much to shoot at. All of it plays a part. What the fuck do I shoot at?
But unlike playing against Guard, it's all coming towards you.
Exactly. It's not sitting back in a corner just lobbing shells. It's running at you with claws and meanness. So before we finish up with Tyranids, let's talk about some of our favorite stories in the storyline of Tyranids. And I'm going to go first because I love this one. It's all about Inquisitor Cryptman and the best worst or worst best idea ever. Inquisitor Cryptman is an Ordo Xenos Tyranid expert. He witnessed the aftermath of High Feet Behemoth's invasion of Tyran, or Tyran, whatever. Tyran was an ocean world that gives the Tyranids their name. And they came in to Tyran and killed everything and drained all of the water off of this ocean world and left it a bare, dry, dead rock floating through space. So he was worried about them from the start. He's been working against the Tyranids for about 250 years at the end of the 41st millennium. In the Third Tyrannic War, which was when High Fleet Leviathan came up through the middle of the Imperium, he's considered the savior because he stymied the whole left half of Leviathan's pincher movement that was trying to engulf, I believe, Segmentum Solar, where he pulled a play out of the Russian playbook and went scorched earth policy. And so every planet in the path of Hive Fleet Leviathan, he either evacuated or destroyed. So he said, all right, if there's enough time to evacuate all of the people off this planet, we won't kill all of the people on this planet. But he sacrificed untold billions of Imperial lives in exterminatus to stop the advance of Hive Fleet Leviathan. So this was a problem for a lot of people. But he did one more thing before he got kicked out of the Inquisition, which was he took the remaining tendrils of Leviathan and steered them directly into what's known as the Octavius Empire, a.k.a. the Orc homeworlds. And he did this by capturing gene stealers who, emit a psychic lure to the Tyranid hive fleets and shooting them pretty much at the Orc planets. And so he engineered this invasion of the Orc worlds, which is a good thing, but potentially a really bad thing, because you have all of the alien might of the Tyranids slamming in to these Orc homeworlds, and the Orcs only get stronger from more fighting. And the Tyranids only get stronger from more fighting. So you've got this immovable object standing up to this unstoppable force, and whoever wins that fight, whoever comes out of the Octavius Empire, it's going to be bad for us. It's going to be bad for the Imperium. So Inquisitor Kryptman was defrocked, if you will, from the Inquisition. He was issued the Carta Extremis and declared excommunicate traitoris. So he may have saved the Imperium, but he didn't get thanked for it.
Well, he also might have doomed it. That's very much an Aliens versus Predator, whoever wins, we lose sort of situation.
There's the quote. There it is.
Good on him for making a perpetual murder machine.
Yeah, good job, buddy. Do you have a favorite story, Campbell?
Yeah, so the thing with Tyranids is they're not really, unlike Space Marines or Guard or Orcs even, you don't really have a personality behind the army. So the stories tend to reflect the qualities of who they're fighting more than anyone else does. So even a Tyranid-centric story is going to be more about, an Inquisitor Kryptman or, some hero on the other side of it. So in this case, it would be the Battle of Macragge for me, not just because, Ultramarines are my boys, but because I think this is kind of an emblematic battle for how the Tyranids fight. Now, this is a case where, this is Hive Fleet Behemoth, the same ones that drained Tyran, and they were on their way to Macragge. It was in their way. And, Marneus Calgar leads this, naval blockade to defend the planet, and the Tyranids still smash through. And on the planet, you've got, this fortified, almost fortress world of just, in these mountains with these guard regiments and PDF regiments and the entire first company of the Ultramarines, who are, the Ultramarines are the best of the best Marines, and the first company are the best of the best of the best. These are not Marines you want to fuck with. And even then, Hive Fleet Behemoth still gets past the blockade, gets past the orbital defense batteries, gets onto the ground, and gets to grips with all the Marines fighting on the ground. And when Calgar finally returns to the surface, he finds every Tyranid dead, as well as every member of the entire Ultramarines first company.
Jesus.
To a man, dead on the ground. And this is the kind of story that shows that, well, first of all, this wasn't even the entire Hive Fleet Behemoth. They kept going on elsewhere. This is just one tendril. But this story shows that no matter how strong or how heroic or brave you are, it is not enough to stop the Tyranids. It is, at best, a Pyrrhic victory.
Wow. That's pretty gnarly, man, because the Ultramarines are the best of the best, and the first company of the Ultramarines are the best of the best of the best, and they got laid low by a bunch of bugs.
Yeah, by an awful lot of them.
Oh, Jesus.
So before we move on from the 40k Badcast, what would you say are the pluses and minuses of collecting or painting a Tyranid army?
Well, I think the biggest plus for Tyranids is if you have a Tyranid army, you have the most unique force in 40k. There's nothing like it. There's no vehicles. There's no troops. There's no regiments. There's none of that shit. It's a Gestalt intelligence leading what is functionally a piece of their own body. Each Tyranid represents like a nerve cluster. It's connected through the hive mind, through synapse, to the rest of the Tyranid organism, which is a galaxy-spanning organism. And it's just so damn cool. It's just so fucking cool that's the army that you've chosen. So I got to give it to Tyranid players. Also, if you have a full Tyranid army, that means you probably got like 400 models in that army.
Yeah.
because you got so many fucking Gaunts and Hormagaunts and Gene Stealers and shit. And I always gotta doff my cap to people who pull off Horde armies, because I've done it and it is a pain in the butt. But once you get it, man, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's probably like the best army to psych players out with too, because not only is it just intimidating to see this many models on the table, but they're also coming at you alarmingly fast. And even if you're a close combat army like orcs or whatever, you're still getting hemmed in and surrounded pretty quickly. It's like playing a force of nature.
Ain't that the truth? All right, man, we got a global campaign update that I want to get to.
Oh, yeah, our 40k global campaign, over which we've still been getting in dozens, if not hundreds of battle reports every week.
Every day, every hour.
Every hour, on the hour. People are sending us reports like clockwork. Like, boop, 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 look at this. The fuck boys suck. Boop, 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 boop. The bad boys are awesome. Whoa, I can't believe everyone's sending me these emails all the time. They're getting at me on Twitter. They're getting at me on Instagram. They're getting at me on OkCupid. They're getting at me on Gmail. They're getting at me everywhere. They're getting at me on Lycos.
What happened in round 4?
Fuck boys suck. They're trailing hard.
Fuck
They're
you.
still behind the bad boys by 3 games. The bad boys have also won 3 of the last 4 rounds, so it's looking good for the bad boys. So at this point, I was expecting it to be a little more of a maybe a tie or somewhere where they could come through, but the bad boys have a pretty strong lead. So if the fuck boys want to have any chance of winning this campaign, they're gonna need to play best out of 7 instead of best out of 5.
Well, fellas, you know what we can do though? We can go out with a bang. We can take a few with us, first company style. What's round 5, Campbell? Give it to me.
This is a podcast all about the bang. Round 5. Even in death, I'm still bad. The deployment is table quarters. You know what that means. You got random game length as per the rules. Turn 5-year-old, turn 6-year-old, yada yada. You have 1 objective in the middle of each quarter and 1 in the middle of the table. And a unit partially within 6 inches of an objective, 6, not 3, 6, of an objective counts as controlling it, and units can control multiple objectives at once. However, when a unit is destroyed, the player who destroyed that unit places an objective marker within 1 inch of where at least one model was. That objective marker is then treated the same way as any other objective marker. So heads up, bring a lot of objective markers, like a stack of poker chips. Now, here's the twist. At the end of each player turn...
Or don't bring any if you're Campbell.
I'm not even sure I know what that dig means, because I've won 2 out of my 3 last games.
Not against me.
That's true. At the end of each player turn, that player loses a victory point for every objective they control. So there's going to be shitloads of objectives on the table, and you're just going to be draining victory points.
So it's keep away.
It's keep away, but everything is a hot potato. Command points are not available. However, stratagems can still be used. Instead of command points, they burn victory points. So you have an effectively bottomless pool of negative victory points. And at the end, whoever has the most, and by most I mean closest to positive number of victory points, is the winner. So let's say at the end of the game, you're a fuckboy, so you're around a -40, and you're against a bad boy who's around a -3, the bad boy wins. The rules are on 40kbadcast.com/campaign. The mission is round 5, even in death, I'm still bad.
Yeah, I can't wait to see some of the pictures and shit from our players on that one, because this one's going to be a fucking doozy.
Speaking of doozy, before we got to this podcast, we were thinking, what are we going to be talking about this week? What are we going to be talking about? Let's pitch some ideas. And I came up with a list of topics, all of which Dan shot down, foolishly. And I figure I might run you guys through them so you can have some ideas for your own podcasts, or to get a little peek behind the kimono to see how our creative process works.
I think I'm going to be vindicated here. I'm just putting this out there.
Okay. So the first of these ideas, I think is really good, is Warhammer anime and you. How to incorporate your favorite anime into your Warhammer army.
Here's how. Don't.
Next up is one that I think is a pretty fine one. 1,000 points versus 1,000 folds of Hanzo steel. How to defeat an enemy army using only the art of Bushido.
God, you're the fucking worst.
Only in death does duty end. Doody. The etiquette on taking bathroom breaks during games.
Okay,
I think there's a lot of conversation here.
That should be an actual segment for the show. Maybe not like a 30-minute segment, but we could probably spend 10 minutes on how if you have to fart, just walk away from the table.
Just go over to the War Machine table and let it rip and come back. Oh wait, no one's playing War Machine. Teaching your cat 40k, getting your 4-legged friends into the game. I still posit that this is not only a good idea, but the best idea.
Well, they're monstrous creatures. They count.
I think they might be gargantuan creatures. Oh, it depends on the cat.
I think one of my cats definitely counts as a gargantuan creature.
They're a pudgy friend. This podcast is about War Machine now. We teach players how to play the very good and very much still alive game of War Machine using all of our experience with it.
So many people play it.
I touched a Khador model once.
I have the War Machine rulebook that was given to me for free at Adepticon.
I sold that immediately. What netlist is right for you? We review the best netlists out there, cross-reference them with our zodiac signs, and figure out how many smites Libra gets, which I think is 3 max when Saturn is in retrograde, or 8 when Pluto is in Gatorade.
Oh, no. Oh, that joke is so bad. What else you got?
We make the call. We answer questions about the rules and the rest of the game using our encyclopedic knowledge of Warhammer 40,000.
Okay, I want to do this for real though. Whatever like terrible questions we can find on DACA or Bolter and Chainsword or whatever the fuck else, we should answer those.
Full disclosure, I've actually stewed in this idea since I wrote this stupid list like a month ago, and I've actually collected a bunch, so you're going to be getting these soon.
Yes!
Next up, tasting notes. Primaris Marines. We judge the flavor, texture, and mouthfeel of the Primaris Marines release. By the way, the choking hazard, not recommended for listeners under the age of 3. And finally, Warhammer 40,001. What if Warhammer 40,000 was one more?
It's the age-old question. Campbell, these are great ideas, and we're going to do all of them next episode.
Yay!
But first...
I look forward to seeing how the Art of Bushido holds up against my friend's tower.
But first, before we get into all those juicy segments next episode, we got to finish out this one. And before we can do that, you need to read me some fucking fan fiction. That's right, fuckers. It's Factor fan fiction.
Here it is, your favorite. We recorded one last time, and it was really bad and not funny. So this time, it's one that is really bad and maybe funny. Club. Lasgun stock stroke a young guardsman's nose, smashing it. The soldier recoiled, dropping his lasgun, squeezing his bleeding nose, and, finally, lost his balance and fell on solid rockrite of the training ground. He sat on a cold rockrite, trying to stop blood dripping from the smashed nose and wincing, because of pain and of his sparring partner's laughter. Landix, just try not to stare at my boobs next time! Janet Sula reached out her counterpart, sweeping her ponytail. Don't want to see my aide-de-camp carrying his bayonet like a pitchfork when we'll encounter Tyranids or orcs. Ah, you freaking liar! Captain barely avoided Lennox's fist. Soldier, using Sulla's hand like a lever, went on to the attack, refusing to admit his defeat. Second later, Captain and her aide stand opposite to each other in a compact position, with lasguns in their hands. Sparring of the 597th Valhallan went on, ...
What the fuck language was that?
Well, first of all, High Gothic, clearly. Second of all, what do you think about the validity of this piece? Do you think it is an official piece of Black Library fiction, or maybe even something written by an eager fan who doesn't speak English very well?
Well, I did recognize one of the names from the Caiaphas Cain books.
Huh.
Yeah, Janet Sulla is one of the officers that Caiaphas Cain deals with in his travels with the 597th Valhalla.
Mm.
So, with all this information at my fingertips, I'm going to say it's fucking fan fiction. That person didn't know how to write.
So,
or spell, probably.
They did not know how to spell. This story is called The More You Sweat in Training, The Less You Bleed in War by Anderzej1, who also wrote the bad fan fiction that none of the rest of you will ever hear because it was too boring.
Oh, you know what? I fucking knew it. I knew it sounded like the same bad writing as last time. God damn it. You couldn't. Ugh. Campbell.
Yeah?
Fuck you.
I live to disappoint.
It's like sometimes the fact fiction is like the fact fiction. God damn it. Fuck. Sometimes the fan fiction is so fucking bad because it's got goddamn Goku in it or some shit, and it makes me physically angry. And then this time I'm like fucking charged up and ready to like hate this stupid fan fiction, and all it is boring bullshit written by some asshole probably in fucking Yugoslavia, which doesn't even exist anymore. And it's like, fuck. What the fuck am I supposed to do with this boring story? I am Janet Sulla. I hit you with lasgun. Fuck, man.
Don't look at my boobs next time.
Oh, do not look at boobs. Nobody look at my
No
boobs.
rubles for my boobles. This is probably racist.
No rubles for my boobles. Episode title, right fucking there. All right, we're sorry. We suck. Everything is bad. We're the fucking 40k Badcast. Send complaints to contact at 40kbadcast.com, where you can email us how bad we are, how bad you are, and how bad you want to be. You can also reach out to us on Twitter. I am at DB_sleazy. I recently followed our friend Craig Sniffin on Twitter.
Huh.
How about that?
I look at pictures of his cat sometimes on Instagram.
That's tight. What about you on Twitter, fuckface?
I'm at brother SRM, all one word. Check me out for tweets. I don't even know what I tweet about anymore. It's all chaos. I also have a YouTube show, youtube.com/camhammer show. Not can hammer with an N as in Negro Modelo, an M as in McDonald's, because turns out Can Hammer is a Canadian podcast about Warhammer, and I saw somebody on the Independent Characters Facebook group was like, oh yeah, I love Can Hammer. It's a great show. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. I'm gonna like this guy's post. And then someone's like, oh, thanks, glad you like the show. And I'm like, I'm not him. And it turns out these guys have been doing it for a while, and I'd be mad, except they're Canadians, so they'd be really polite about it, so I can't be that mad at them. But fuck you anyway. I'm sure your show is lovely. YouTube.com/camhammer show. I put out a video about fucking fan cartoons on Newgrounds related to Warhammer. They're mostly pretty terrible. Please give it a watch. I did one a few weeks ago about attempts to make Hollywood films based on Warhammer. That one's actually really good. I'm proud of that one. Watch them both. Watch neither of them. Do either. Throw me money on Patreon if you pity me enough. And you can check us out at 40kbadcast.com. 40kbadcast.com/campaign to read about the campaign, and email us at contact@40kbadcast.com once again to tell us how terrible we are. I'm Campbell McLaughlin, he's Daniel Boyd, and until next time, stay bad. I need an inspirational quote. Okay, I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say kill 'em all. 40k Badcast, signing off!
Oh, God. Oh, man, no rubles for these boobles.
No rubles for these boobles.
Fucking wheels came off at the end of that one, huh?